each. Check 1 2, what it do? Welcome back to the Mic Check Podcast. This is T Word, the People's Champ. Big who that to everybody out there listening. Today we're going to talk about the New Orleans Saints against the Carolina Panthers. But before we get into the video, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and drop some comments after you finish watching. All right. So let's get right into it. Saints visit the Carolina Panthers in a divisional matchup in week 2 of this new NFL season. And going into this game, if you watched the preview video, you already knew I had concerns about how this would play out, and a lot of those concerns came to fruition within this game. So starting off, this game started off very slow. Both teams exchanging field goals for the majority of the first, let's say, 30 to 40 minutes of the game, and then down the stretch, you actually saw some scoring for both teams, specifically the Saints doing what it took to get ahead and staying ahead for the rest of the game. So early on, Derek Carr and the offense couldn't get going for the Saints. Bryce Young, as expected, was facing a very, very, very stiff Saints defense, and it showed up. He couldn't make any big plays. The run game couldn't get going, and it was just tough sledding for the Panthers throughout. Here's some stats to let you know how things went. Bryce Young was 22 of 33 for 153 yards and a touchdown, which came extremely late, and about 45 to 60 yards of that 153 came on the last drive. In addition, Miles Sanders at running back had 14 carries for 43 yards, and it was tough sledding. He had like a 10-yard run to start off, and then it was just piece by piece for the rest of the game. Adam Thielen was the leading receiver for the Carolina Panthers at 7 catches for 54 yards and TD. Again, this is stuff that occurred down the stretch. This wasn't as if they were just having this success throughout the game. I mean, they had a hard time even, making a play on third down. On the flip side of that, Derek Carr went 21 to 36, just over 50%, 228 yards, and he threw one INT. Taysom Hill, had 9 carries for 75 yards, and Tony Jones Jr. actually had 2 rushing TDs. Chris Olave was the leading receiver with 6 catches for 86 yards. Additional stats to talk about, Taysom Hill did throw a pass for 8 yards. Tony Jones ended up with 34 yards with 2 rushing TDs. In fact, both of them late in the game to go ahead and put things on ice. Rashid Shaheed had 4 catches for 63 yards. Michael Thomas 7 for 55. And then, just a little bit here and there for everybody else. Just nothing too sensational. Marcus May had a sack. Demario Davis, Shepard, and Carl Granderson had sacks. So the team finished with 4 sacks. The defense forced a couple of turnovers. So big day defensively for the Saints. The touchdown that I'm going to say they gave it away, because down the stretch, they went into a very ugly prevent defense and they won. Here's my problem with what's going on with New Orleans. So you had 2 field goals and then you had 2 touchdowns. And it was 2 weeks in a row, you wait until the second half, late in the second half, to actually get your first TD and make some big plays. They had a big play to Chris Olave, which eventually set up some running plays that set up Tony Jones' first touchdown. And then the second drive, it was a big play to Rashid Shaheed that set up the second touchdown. We can't live and die by these types of plays if you're New Orleans, and it was just an ugly win all around. 20 to 17 is the final score, but really, you can take that last 7 off the board. Well, 8, because they got the 2-point conversion. So it really was like 20 to 9, and the Saints just kind of sat back and just let Carolina kind of eat up some clock and just kind of work their way down the field. They recovered the onside kick, and then they get the victory. Something that bothers me a lot is that Carolina had, I believe, 5 sacks, and you just can't have this when you're trying to break Derek Carr in. Let's see, Adam Thielen had 1 receiving TD. Bryce Young had 34 yards rushing on 2 carries. He broke a big one, and then it looks like the DB was kind of like hesitant about making a tackle, and he got shook out of his shoes, and Bryce Young got a couple extra yards. So let's see, you had Kruger Hill for the Panthers with 1 sack. You had Luvu with 2 sacks. You had a half sack for Houston, and then you had a half sack for Gross Matos. So that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 sacks. And then also Von Bell got an interception. Former Saint, went out to Cincinnati, played in the Super Bowl, came back down south, wanted to play in the South of Carolina, gets a interception against his former team that drafted him. He's a good player, but I think that he could be exposed at this point in his career. I don't know, man. I'm disappointed in what the offense looks like, because I believe we have all these tools but our quarterback and our offensive line just aren't getting it done, and it starts up front. I think in the run game, we showed that we can establish against a good defense, because the Panthers are a good defense. We can establish the run, which is going to open up the play action game and start to pass. Another thing I'd like to maybe see more of is line up Taysom Hill at like a tailback position. The way he runs downhill, let him run that until somebody stops it. Just a straight up dive play. Just send him up the gut, see what happens. I thought it was really effective down the stretch. Maybe it was more effective because at that point the defense was worn out because their offense wasn't on the field enough to give them a blow. So late in the game, playing from behind, you're getting ran on. It's kind of hard to just muster up the strength to stop a good run game, especially with a big runner like Taysom Hill. So maybe that's why I was so successful. But nonetheless, I'd like to see that package instituted a little bit early in the game. If I'm going to grade the coaching staff, I'm going to give them a C. I thought that they lack creativity, and they're just living off the talent that lines up between the chalk. They're not putting these guys in the best position to win. They're putting them in the position to just be talented, and that's not going to win you a bunch of games. However, this team is 2-0. Offensively, C-. They did get 2 touchdowns late in the game, so it's hard to rank them lower than that, even though I feel like for 45 out of 60 minutes, they were like a D-level offense. Defensively, that's an A. That last touchdown, I'm not going to hold against them. They did everything they had to for 7 quarters, 7.5 quarters. Well, hell, let's damn near call it 8 quarters of football. They gave up, 7 field goals, and then eventually a touchdown. And 8 quarters of football, they gave up 7 field goals and a touchdown. You're going to win a lot of games that way if your offense can start to score 20-plus points consistently, which I think Derek Carr and the offense can do. They just got to figure out how to get Michael Thomas the ball more often, because he's going to move the chains, and then also establish the run much earlier in the game, and then work the play action, and then use those shot plays to get their big play guys like Shaheed and Olave downfield, and eventually work the seam with Graham and Jawan Johnson. So those are my thoughts on today's game. I'm going to get a little bit deeper into some things. I want to watch some film on it and see if there's anything in particular that I want to point to that they need to improve on for next week. But in the meantime, the Saints did what they needed to do. I need Derek Carr to step this shit up, man. We brought you in here to be a winner. I need to see you win, and I need to see these Saints do better on offense. So this has been T for the Mike Check Podcast. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Until the next time I'm out. Peace.